The period between 1800 and 1850 brought significant changes to the political map of Europe, which was directly reflected in the jewelry art of the time. The jewels of this era served not only as aesthetic objects, but also carried complex political and emotional messages. This period was one of the richest in the history of jewelry art, where the representation of power and the expression of personal feelings both played an important role. The most influential political figure of the imperial and romantic era was undoubtedly Napoleon, whose taste and imperial ambitions left their mark on jewelry art. Napoleonic-style jewelry evoked the motifs of ancient Rome and Egypt, thus legitimizing the new French imperial aspirations. Empress Josephine's dazzling diadems and necklaces combined antique symbols with the masterful craftsmanship of the time. French jewelers favored the use of cameos and intaglios, which often depicted mythological scenes or Napoleon himself. These jewels not only served a decorative function, but also served as tools of imperial propaganda. The geometric arrangement of rubies, emeralds, and diamonds in the jewelry also evoked classical order. While political representation dominated in France, the Romantic movement had a decisive influence on English jewellery art. English jewellery of the Imperial and Romantic era often expressed personal feelings, which perfectly matched the Romantic philosophy emphasizing individualism and emotions. English jewelers took special care in creating miniature portraits hidden in lockets, which often contained locks of hair or even the ashes of loved ones. Sentimental jewelry, such as hair bracelets or rings, were characteristic creations of the Imperial and Romantic era in England. Natural elements, flowers, leaves, and vines also became common motifs, reflecting the era's emotional connection to nature. In the Habsburg Empire, the Imperial and Romantic era coincided with the flourishing of the Biedermeier style. Jewellery took on cleaner forms, expressing the growing social role of the middle class. Biedermeier jewellery was typically smaller and more understated than its French or Russian counterparts. Gemstones such as amethyst, topaz, and garnet enjoyed great popularity, as their affordability made them accessible to the increasingly wealthy middle class. Jewellery from the Imperial and Romantic era in the monarchy often featured local motifs, reflecting the cultural diversity of the multi-ethnic empire. In the Italian territories, this period coincided with the golden age of archaeological excavations in the early 19th century. The discovery of Pompeii and Herculaneum had a huge impact on jewellery art, reviving ancient Roman techniques and motifs. Micromosaic jewellery became particularly popular, featuring meticulously crafted insets, often depicting ancient ruins or classical scenes. The fashion of the Grand Tour further enhanced the popularity of these jewels, as travelers were eager to bring home such souvenirs. Thus, Italian jewellery of this period served both as works of art and as bearers of ancient culture. Spanish jewellery art at that time was strongly influenced by the Catholic Church. Religious symbols, crosses, holy images, and rosary elements served not only a religious function, but also as jewellery. The filigree work of Spanish masters, crafted with special techniques, and the use of the characteristic black enamel or niello, gave Spanish jewellery a unique character. In the southern regions, Arab influence was also felt, creating a unique synthesis between Christian and Moorish motifs. The historical symbols of the nation often appeared in Spanish jewellery of this period, strengthening national identity after the Napoleonic occupation. The Russian Tsarist court produced jewellery of unparalleled richness during the Imperial and Romantic era. Under the rule of Tsars Alexander I and Alexander II, Russian jewellery art drew inspiration from both Western trends and rich Russian traditions. The forerunners of the Fabergé workshop were already creating works of exceptional quality during this period, combining French elegance and elements of Russian motifs. Colorful enamels and elements of the Byzantine heritage gave the Russian pieces a unique character. This era also brought significant technical innovations to jewellery making. The canottiere technique, in which intricate patterns were coiled from thin gold wire, became particularly popular. This technique allowed for the creation of spectacular three-dimensional jewellery using relatively little precious metal, which was particularly advantageous during the metal shortage caused by the Napoleonic Wars. The technique of gemstone cutting also evolved during this period. Jewellery from this time often features the so-called rose cut, which was particularly suited to sparkling in candlelight. The jewellery of this era are still sought-after collector's items today. In addition to their special historical value, they are also considered an excellent investment. By studying the pieces of this era, we can gain insight into the political and social dynamics of Europe at that time. The technical feats and use of materials of this era are still inspiring today. Several contemporary jewellery brands draw inspiration from the motifs of the imperial and romantic era, proving that this period was one of the most exciting and richest chapters in the history of European jewellery art. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for joining me.